again, folks, and welcome to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today back in Wigan, my hometown, where I've come to take a look on the site of the former John Pit, which is in the Standish Lower Ground / Shevington area of Wigan, for those of you who know it. Now, I've not been making videos for a while, Hot Potters, the simple reason being I've been too busy decorating mine and Mrs H's home, ready for a little new arrival, which is due on December the 1st. And I've been that busy doing stuff like that, I've decided today I'm going to have a break from it. Because you get fed up, don't you, with the smell of paint fumes and wallpaper hanging and all that kind of good stuff. So I thought I'd escape for a while and I'd get out and I'd make a little video. So I've not come too far away. I've also decided to try and get a walk in a day. I've sort of fell away from doing that. Some of you might recall some of the videos that I made where we're doing canal walks and all that kind of good stuff. But I sort of fell off. Once we found out Mrs H was pregnant, I decided I'd have to get some of that decorating done, which I've been promising to do for her for 10 years. So today I'm on Shank's pony, and like I said, we've come to John Pit. Now, some of you will probably recall that I've done a video from this area way back when, where I come and had a look at a little old World War I memorial that was still on this site, although the plates have been removed. For those of you who's interested in that video, I'll bang a link up to it now. And for those of you who are not, carry on watching this video. So, what am I looking for today? Well, as you know, lots of colliery sites, they do have old remains of what they used to be, if you know where to look, and this one's no different. So we're going to take a look at a little hidden gem that's hidden in the undergrowth that I found whilst on a recce the other day with Mrs H and the girls. So without further ado, no more waffling, let's take a look. Right, folks, this little structure that I've come to have a look at today is just down this little man-made path here, hidden in this undergrowth. Now, I'm going down what was once a railway embankment, because like all collieries, there used to be railway lines leading into it, obviously to take out all the coal and that had been brought up through the mine shafts. And this one was no different. But what this colliery did have was a washery, and the idea was that the coal would be washed and then sent on to wherever. Now, although the colliery opened in about the 1800s and closed in, I think it was the 1940s, something like that, maybe somebody can correct me by watching my other video, the washery remained, and the NCB, who'd taken over the colliery industry in the UK by that point, they continued to send coal from Dock Pit, which is over near Ashton in Makerfield, which isn't too far away from where we are now. They sent it to this area to be washed, and the idea of that was to continue using the facility, I suppose, but even that closed in about the 1960s, and then that was it. Everything was just left dormant type of thing. Now, through the trees here, you can probably just make out some brick structures, which is what we've come to have a look at. And these are very reminiscent of the ones I took a look at Ellerbeck Colliery. I'll put a link into that video now so you can compare these brick structures. It's made out of the same kind of brick. So we're going to take a little look at these now. I'll be honest with you, I've no idea what they once was. Like I said, this was just part of the washery area. Now, whether or not this is where all the filter beds and that was, I don't know. Anybody who knows anything about this type of thing, maybe they can get in touch with me and leave a comment below. There's some of the old posts there, concrete posts, I should imagine, that would have separated this from the railway line, which would have been just above there. So let's take a look at these various structures, and let's start with the biggest here, this round one. So here I am, I'm stood in the middle of that round structure that I just showed you. Now, looking at it, although there's some fallen brickwork in various places, you can see where there's like brick on edge. So that would have basically stated that that was the top of it. So I think that's the original height. I don't think it would have been any taller. Here, just behind me, you can see a concrete post. I'll show you that on its own in a bit. I'll turn the camera around. And that just stands in the middle. Now, whether or not something was actually on top of this and it would have turned round at one point, I don't know. There's holes been left in this brickwork. Again, I'll show you when I turn the camera around. Deliberately left in. Whether or not that was to drain it, I don't know. Like I said, I've not really got any idea what this structure would have been. But it's obviously been a plant that was built here, you know, and why it wasn't demolished along with the rest of the pit, I don't know. Whether or not it just sort of fell outside, I don't know. All built out of engineering brick, as I said, very similar to how the ones was at Ellerbeck, although this one is a different design. Anyway, I'll turn the camera around now and we'll take a look at some of the other structures that are around this area. And there's those holes that have been deliberately left in the wall at measured intervals. So you can see that those have been a deliberate thing, you know, they've not just fell out over time. You can see the brick on edge there. So that's how tall it would have been. Obviously some of the brickwork's fallen away, which has left an opening so people can get in. It does look like a stop end, that. There's a little bit of a brickwork terminology for you, stop end. Whether or not that was a doorway at one time and it's just been made wider with time, I don't know. There's that concrete pillar that's in the middle. There's like a metal thing on top there, you can just make out. Like I said, I should imagine there would have been something on that at one time or another. I don't think it's a pipe. No, it's not a pipe, it's just something that would have been on there. Like I said, what it would have been for, I don't know. There's like a brick tower there with some metal things in to walk up. As I said, very similar to the one at Ellerbeck. We'll take a look at that now and we'll have a little walk up there and see what's inside. And here's the outside. There's that like brick tower with metal hooks in to walk up. Sort of remind me of those bunkers on the beaches of Dunkirk that we once went and had a look at. Go and check out my videos on those. Take a closer look at one. Right then, that's just begging to be climbed, isn't it, Hot Potters? And I wonder what's inside it. So, let's take a look. Well, I've now climbed up on top of that wall to take a look at it from an above position. At the side of me is that little water tower. We'll take a look in that in a minute. It's a bit of a disappointment, it's just been capped off with concrete. So what it was for at one time, I don't know. There does look like there's a bit of a drainage channel down there that would have ran into this big round circle that's laying before me. As I said, quite how it would have worked, I don't know. There's lots of like drainage chambers, you know, with lids on, or would have had lids on at one time. I should imagine those have long since gone. The scrap man would have had them, wouldn't he? So I'll take a look inside and then we'll make our way over to the other side where the filter beds are. And as you can see, I'm stood on top of that wall that I showed you earlier. Below me is that round brick structure with the pillar in the middle there and the metal plate on it. And then this is the top of that brick structure that I've climbed up. We'll take a look inside now, and as I said, it is a little bit of a disappointment, but as you can see there, it's just been roughly capped off with concrete. It looks like somebody's just thrown concrete in there at one time. Why? I don't know. Whether or not these would have led down and all this is like a bit of a chamber underneath, you know, and it's like an subterranean tunnels and that, I don't know. You can just make out what would have been a water outlet there, and I should imagine that would have run into here to do whatever. Now that looks a little bit interesting over there, just beyond that brickwork there at the bottom of your screen, because there's like a filter bed over there and what appears to be like a little chimney over there and a fireplace, so I'm definitely going to have a mooch over there and see what's what. As always, I always said, don't I, that these places have been really good to come to with a metal detector, and this one's no different, you know, just to see what's around here. I can't imagine there'd be much in here, you know, it'll just be little bits of metal and that, but you never know, do you, what's in them. So this is one for the future, although, as people will probably point out, I won't have much time now that I've got a baby on the way. Well folks, I've managed to make my way through the undergrowth and I've made my way over to where them filter beds are now. I'm stood in front of a pretty deep brick chamber here, which I'm going to stick the camera in a minute and you can have a little look at. Like I said, it's all been built out of engineering brick, this. Like I said, lots of filter beds, and it all seems to sort of work its way down, as though that's the highest point where I've just been, and I'm now at the lowest point, so I should imagine they used gravitational pull for the water to get it from the top to work its way down to the bottom. And I believe there's a stream down there somewhere, so maybe back in them days, all the effluent and that and all the rubbish used to be banged in the stream. They weren't bothered, there was no water authority or anything like that coming down and handing big fines out. You could do what you wanted back in the 1800s and that way on. So that's probably what they did. So we'll take a little look now at some of these chambers, because as I said, they're pretty deep. I was going to stand on the top of this concrete slab, but when you see some of the holes in it and it looks a bit ropey, I thought, nah, I'll stand at one side and stick the camera down. So without further ado, let's take a look in this chamber, shall we? And there we go, that's the top of this chamber. There's an hole there where the concrete's just rotted away. Although it's pretty thick, I thought I'm not risking it, because as you can see, it's pretty deep down there. You know, I don't fancy falling in that. There's some step irons there, so obviously some people have been in there, but I don't fancy going down there. And judging from the cobweb there that you can probably just see across your screen, it doesn't look like anybody's been down there for a good while. Looks like somebody's lost a football down there, but I don't think I'll be going down there retrieving that. Now there's one of the filter beds over there where I said there's like a little fireplace over there. I don't think it is a fireplace, I think it's just an opening that would have led out for the pipes and the water. So I'm now stood in that filter bed where I thought there was a little fireplace. It's not a little fireplace, bit of an optical illusion from back where I was stood. All it is just brick on edge and just like a little opening underneath. Obviously they built it that way to get over a pipe or something. I'll show you, you know, and then we'll make our way down to those lower chambers, because those look a bit more interesting than this one. And there you can see why it fooled me and I thought that it was a fireplace. It's not very deep. One thing you can see there is the power of nature. Look at how that tree's pushing that brickwork out. It's amazing, really. There's a remnant of some of the old pipes. So you can see, I don't know what that one would be, probably 12-inch bore that. Old Imperial, been no metric here, they're that old. And this is the bit that I thought was a chimney. As you can see, it's just another little chamber of some description. I want to make my way out of this one now, because it's just full of debris really, that. I'll just give you a quick panoramic shot looking back. Looks like somebody's had a tent in there at one time, and I found a better place to camp out than that. And we'll make our way down to these lower chambers here. Now interestingly on these, it looks like there's still some metalwork that's been like a bit of a gate that they could be shut off with them. I'm surprised that's still in there, because it's cast iron, and back in the day cast iron was worth quite a bit with the scrap man. So I'm surprised they've not been salvaged, or, you know, people have come round and whipped it, as my dad used to say. Lots of concrete here, you know, concrete sides. Again, this is another filter bed or chamber of some description. Looks like there's been 3 in a row here. 1, 2, 3. And this is a closer look at some of the ironwork that's down in one of those chambers. Like I said, it's like a little gate that I should imagine they could have shut the water flow off with. Made by Hartley in Stoke. Whether that means the name Hartley or whether there's a place in Stoke called Hartley, I don't know. If you do know, leave a comment below. There's 3 of these chambers in all, obviously, to each of these filter beds. We'll take a look at the 3rd one now, and then we'll make our way up, look at some of the bigger structures that are still there, and then we'll wrap this one up. And this is the inside of the other little pit leading into the 3rd filter bed. As you can see, that one's had its little cover removed, so you can see how it would have worked though. It would have sort of run on little runners, and over the other side is a channel, so yeah, that's how they would have worked. That's exactly what they were for. And that's looking over the bed that it would serve. Right then, we're going to make our way back up there now, because as you can see with the ground level, I'm sort of down here at the bottom of an hill. And then, as I said, we'll wrap this video up. Right then, hot potters, we'll take a look at this last chamber and the inside of it. It's not very big inside, although it does have a very impressive opening on it. Now, another theory I've had as I was making my way up, because I could get the strong smell of sewerage in here, is that maybe this was part of a little sewerage area at one time, you know, to take from the farms and that. It's definitely Victorian in design, although there's a lot of concrete in here, as I've mentioned. Old style concrete, you know, 40s style of concrete. So that sort of moves away and doesn't lend itself to being Victorian, because I don't believe the Victorians used concrete. Apparently the Romans did, and then we lost how to make it once the Romans left us. And we only rediscovered cement in the Victorian era, by all accounts. Something I learned there in my old bricklaying days, hot potters. I always pass on these little bits of interesting history. So we'll take a look at this chamber now, and then, like I said, I'm going to get off out of here, because it is a bit claustrophobic in this area. And, you know, it's muggy weather, isn't it? Although we've had all that nice hot weather and we've had a little bit of rain, it's very muggy and close, as my mother used to say. Right, inside this then. And there we go. That's the last of these chambers. As you can see, this one really is reminiscent of Ellerbeck. But when you have a look inside it, there's just a little opening in it, and then what appears to be like a round chamber inside. Now, I can't make out with them if indeed those are actually modern day type of, you know, when you see on building sites these round concrete rings. I'm wondering if that was one of them. As I say, I'm not going to climb in any of these because you don't know what state they're in. Plus, you don't know what's been dumped down there. Here's another one. Just junk in them now. I mean, the Victorian in design, you know, with big engineering brick, Class B engineering brick, but all the concrete that's around them suggests really that they was built after the Victorian era, to be honest. Right folks, it's over to you guys. What do you think it was? I think this was part of the old washery area for washing the coal to the old John Pit. Now, the fact that there's a lot of chambers there, and I did get a bit of a smell of a rotting material as I was climbing out, there is the other theory that it could be part of a little sewerage plant, you know, that would have either served the pit or the farms and that would have been in this area. Now, I do know that one or two of you who watch these videos, you know, you do comment that, oh, I used to work there, or I used to play there as a kid. So maybe you know what that was. I don't, because this isn't really my patch. I wasn't brought up in this area of Wigan. I was on the other side over there in Lower Rinse. So I'll leave it open to you guys and what your interpretation of what all those brick structures may be. Why they've been left behind, who knows. Maybe laziness, probably. Now, before I sign off, I am going to warn you, hot potters, that I'm not going to be uploading videos as thick and fast. I am due to go out and have a bit of an holiday in a couple of weeks' time where we're going to go and film something a little bit special over in Lincolnshire. But as for the normal thing, where sometimes I put 2, 3 up in a week, I simply don't have the time now that I'm making preparations for my little son or daughter who's on the way. So I will upload and continue to upload videos, they'll just not be as thick and fast. I do apologise, but I've got to get my priorities right, haven't I? So, until the next time, from myself, Mr H, it is bye-bye.